Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to plant a church for the homeless, and we are going to use the pioneering church plant model. In the pioneering church plant model, we are preparing, launching, establishing, structuring, and reproducing. The first step, preparing. Metaphors are used, such as recruiting a team of players for a sports team. And during this time, you look at and determine where you want to plant your ministry, the focus of the people you want to work with. And based on this, you form your team uh, of people that are going to be commissioned by a local church. And the local church will provide prayer and financial support and other essential support. The team building process is what starts with the preparing. And so you're not only going to look at the relationships within the church planting team, but you're also going to look at making alliances with other people and other churches and fellowships and organizations. Um, so you're going to want to research the location, and that is when you start the initial steps. So you're going to want to visit the target location where the people live, where you're focusing on, and the congregation. Sometimes people actually live there to figure that out. And then on the basis of what you've gathered, then you'll start the appropriate evangelistic discipleship strategies. And that is a preparing phase of the church plant model. The next phase is the launching phase. And in this phase, what we're going to primarily be focusing on is the evangelistic and discipling of the pioneering ministries. And through the way we do this is by developing relationships, while focusing on the people that we're trying to help or trying to get into the church through the evangelistic efforts. This is where those efforts are initiated. And during this time, the first new believers are going to be ready for the baptism. So we're moving quite along at this phase. And so now that we have that, we have to look at training. We have to learn to train the new believers, to train them in ministry, basic training, to mobilize their faith. And the point is so that they're able to disciple others. Constantly want to be able to think about this in terms of the future. And we want to make sure that methods that are used are easily reproduced by the local people. We don't want anything too complex. And so through this training, we want to end up developing leadership. And compassion, leadership through compassion and service, that demonstrates their love of Christ. And through this, we'll build up relationships, and that will be a sign that we are developing the kingdom of God. And that's the launching phase. And the local believers become a planter model, easily reproduced. That's launching. The establishing is next, the establishing phase. And during this time, what we want to do is have a functioning congregation, living out the kingdom process, but you have a functioning congregation, a maturing, growing congregation in a church that's just starting out. And so then in that case, we were going to have maybe small groups would meet for celebrations or public worship on a sporadic, well, not sporadic, but on a quarterly or monthly basis. We want to start developing consistency. And the ministry develops and advances by the new ministry congregation's ability to lead. And then we're going to start looking at the budgets and other such things, meeting places, securing building budgets. And that's going to be the central focus of the establishing budding church that we have. Start looking at local leadership, house churches, or other places where people will meet. And so the local believers are now taking ownership of the ministry. And so to do this, they have to be motivated. This is where you have to create excitement and motivation so that people invest their time and energy and talents and finances into advancing and expanding the work of the kingdom of God. And that is called the establishing phase. The establishing phase. The next step is structuring. And structuring the organization of the church. You have the first formless, everything starts becoming formalized. You start formalizing the leaders, the first leaders. And if you're not incorporated, you get incorporated. We're incorporated. And then you start looking for new opportunities. And it's characterized, this phase is characterized by your ministry getting larger and expanding. You're empowering the people. This is very good for the homeless population. You're empowering the local believers, and you're starting to give them more responsibility and independence through their developing of their leadership. And so first, what you want to look at to develop the ministry is that these people, the new people, must be fully dedicated and committed to the life of the church. And that comes through training and the mobilization for services. And the next thing you want to do is teach stewardship. You got to be able to teach that they have a obligation to demonstrate the love of God, right? And you got to make sure that you're adequately resourced. So in this course, their leaders have to learn to equip others for future multiplication of the church. Okay, so this is something where we constantly look towards the future. All right, so the structuring, you start developing leadership for the daughter churches that are now going to be planted from this church, and that's structuring. The last phase is reproducing, and by reproduction, we're talking about not only the multiplication of the smaller daughter churches that are planted locally, but also the church becoming a sending agent. And what you want to do is facilitate the planting of churches amongst more distant, unreached people. And that's the reason why you want to be able to establish relationships and you want to be able to know the community well, because you want to start developing leadership within the community. And then you also want to have cooperation with other churches, other denominations. You want to be inviting. You don't want to say, well, this is mine and I don't want anybody else to help. Fact is that we need to work with each other as Christians. The Christian church needs to. And so what you want to do is develop an understanding that more gets accomplished when we work together than when we don't work together. So there has to be that synergy. This is not something that could happen alone on its own. The churches need to come together. We need to work together. And we need to be able to commit to cooperating with each other. So that's real important. And that is the final phase. And so we went over preparing, launching, establishing, structuring, and reproducing. And this is how we are going to launch the church for the homeless. Hope you enjoy. God bless you.